then you can become fearful.
Panic and like frustration and anxiety.
I think it's a raw feeling. It's a subconscious kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Being scared of something.
I think it's a state of mind.
It's when you're like scared of something.
Yeah, like you don't like want to do something, like you're afraid of it.
I think that fear is something that comes based on like the people around you and like what you've grown up with and what you've seen as you've grown up.
Biggest fear? I guess dying.
I don't know, I guess I don't really have a major fear like heights or animals or dying, so I guess I just don't really have one.
Being eaten by a shark.
Being eaten by a shark?
I don't know. I would say drowning.
Sharks.
Drowning.
Okay, my biggest fear is that something terrible would happen to my children. Like that they would get very sick or be in a horrible accident. The first time I was scared, I was about 3 years old, and I saw my grandfather laid out in the coffin in the living room of his home.
Probably whenever I had to find out that I had to have a kidney transplant.
When I was 4 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it?
How was I scared?
Yeah.
Probably my dad popped out at me.
And my mom left me in a car to run into a store.
The first time my cousins forced me to go on the Gravitron.
Well, sometimes it is a sickness, sometimes it is real.
I think it's a figment of your imagination. It's a little both.
A little bit.
Fear could be if someone has a fear of dogs. It might be they had a bad experience as a kid and it's built something up in their subconscious or their subconscious. So them being around dogs might reactivate or cause that feeling from when they were younger.
Yeah. I feel fear is real. It's not a figment because if you don't fear anything, then you probably have some sort of disorder like schizophrenia, who they don't have any emotions whatsoever, no remorse for anything that's wrong. If they hurt someone, it doesn't mean anything to them. So what are they scared of? Death to them is nothing. So it's not a figment, but everyone else, you see it as normal. If you get hurt, you feel something.
I think fear is a figment of imagination.
The question of this video is fear real or a figment of your imagination? First off, what is fear? Fear is a chain reaction in the brain that starts with a stressful stimulus and ends with the release of chemicals that cause a racing heart, fast breathing, and energized muscles. I said that fear starts with a stimulus, so what is that? A stimulus is something that causes your fear in the first place. Let's say you're home alone and you hear a crash. The nerves in your ears hear that sound. That signal is related to the thalamus. The amygdala is part of the brain that automatically registers pure fear. The amygdala releases several neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are chemical nerve cells in the brain known as neurons used to communicate to each other in the nervous system. The most important neurotransmitter is glutamate. The info from glutamate then travels to periaqueductal gray. That region is responsible for two classic fear behaviors, freezing or jumping. The info also is related to the region hypothalamus, which controls the flight or fight response. When the hypothalamus sends the signals down into the body that something scary has happened, it goes to the adrenal glands and they pump out cortisol and adrenaline. Without the fight or flight response, danger would go as unnoticed. The fear response releases adrenaline, which gives our bodies energy and increases our heart rate, blood pressure, and respiratory rates. It also releases glucose, giving us another extra boost.
A lot of psychologists and researchers believe that fear is an innate emotion. It's believed that we are born with the ability to be afraid because it's a survival mechanism. If we did not have fear, we would not then get into a reaction to fear, which is something that is within us to survive, to be able to properly prepare ourselves for anything that's a danger.
I think fear is a survival mechanism, certainly. Fear has adaptive qualities for us over time. We needed to be afraid of things in order to survive. So the basic fears like fear of lightning, fear of fire, fear of heights, fear of danger, fear of the saber-toothed tiger, all of those were quite functional for us.
Let us imagine that I took a long plank that was 50 feet long and 1 foot wide. I put it up on a cinder block so that it was about 3 feet off the ground. At one end, I placed a $20 bill. I challenge you to walk from one end of the plank to the other without falling off. If you make it, you get the $20 bill. Sounds pretty easy, right? I think all of us could do it pretty easily without too much anxiety. Now let's imagine that I take the same plank and place it across a narrow and deep canyon with a raging river flowing at the bottom and razor-sharp rocks jutting out from the walls. Instead of a $20 bill, I place a $100 bill on the other side of the canyon. If you can cross the canyon, you get the $100. How many people do you think would be successful at crossing the canyon? How many do you think would even attempt it? I'm not even sure if I would. But why not? The plank is the exact same width and length. The reward is 5 times greater. Anyone who could cross the plank when it was 3 feet above the ground could also cross it when it was 100 feet above the ground. The truth is that even though the plank's dimensions haven't changed, our focus has. We stop focusing on the money and start looking at the crashing rapids and jagged rocks. We focus so much on the obstacles that fear sets in, and we forget that we already have the ability to make it safely across to the other side. In the end, we tend to be more likely to not even make an attempt. Henry Ford said, "Obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goal." Fear is created by your own mind as it tries to protect us from danger. The problem is that most of the time, our imagination gets a little irrational. It overthinks and then overrides our common sense and confidence. Things that we know we have the ability to accomplish suddenly become impossible. Sometimes people even become paralyzed by the fear they have created. In simple terms, fear is a choice.
Karen Thompson Walker once said, "We all know what it's like to be afraid. Fear is a kind of unintentional storytelling that we are all born with knowing how to do. It seems to come from our minds initially. A person who has a fear of heights usually gets more scared by thinking, 'It's so far down and I'm so high up.' Once we begin to realize that fears are made by our thoughts, we open our minds to learning and well-being. Trying to get to the bottom of our fear will allow us to create the outcome that works for us. Is fear really a figment of imagination? Yes. Everyone has had nightmares before. You can decide that there is no reason to be fearful. If we can realize on some level that we create our own fear, we don't have to make a big deal about it. When we are bound by fear, it takes away all our choices and control."
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen or spoken to an alien from space? Likelihood is you have not, and never will see and or speak with an alien from space, but people persist with the fear of aliens. Life, in and of itself, is full of challenges, and what we must do to become victorious over the quicksands of life is to approach them head-on. Conduct research as to why we have doubts and low self-esteem and work through them. The bottom line is there is nothing we cannot overcome as long as we are committed to improve our standard of life. So when we encounter challenges, we can continue to move forward despite the occasional bump in the road.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity, Qatar. But do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
So deciding as you look at your life, as you look into the future and say, what fears am I holding on to? What fears that I'm allowing to imprison me? It's keeping me from breaking out. That's keeping me from living up to my true potential. That's keeping me from really being happy. That's keeping me from having a sense of adventure and excitement in my life. What's keeping me from controlling my destiny? Fears that I'm giving that permission to. Notice what I said. We must give our permission to fear to immobilize us. Because whatever discomfort you experience, whatever challenges or difficulty that it is, you got to handle it. Got to go up in there and wrestle with it. Will it be easy? No. Will it be challenging? Yes. But that's just what you must go through in order to get where you want to go. And guess what? You're strong enough to do it. You're strong enough, and your life is worth whatever you have to go through.
So if you go to a place where you are what you love and not what loves you, you will lose your fear, because nothing outside of you completes you anymore. You don't need to go to a place where you need to get these things to be happy. But if you're under the illusion that these things outside of you are what complete you, you will always be a victim, because everything has to change to make you happy. So you're dependent on that, and that's why we're in fear. Because we're running around going, oh man, I hope this thing goes this way, I hope I get this job, I hope this person likes me, oh, what if I don't get rent paid, blah, blah, blah. And you're moving from a place from out to in. So my advice to you, as simplistic as this sounds, is go from in to out. Go to a place where you're complete as is. In this place you can create on higher levels. You'll come up with brilliant out-of-the-box ways to make money and get healthy and have friends around you. But those things are a byproduct, because you'll feel so connected with yourself as is that you don't need those things.